This video is about Fantasy in C Major by Robert Schumann. I will explain the most important things about the work and the composer. Robert Schumann was a German composer who lived from 1810 to 1856. He belonged to the Romantic era in music. Schumann composed many works for piano and orchestra. He was married to the famous pianist Clara Wieck. Schumann's music is known for its depth of feeling and expressiveness. A fantasy is a piece of music that is very freely composed. The composer does not follow a strict form. Fantasies are often very expressive and emotional. They can contain different moods and musical ideas. In the Romantic period, the fantasy was a popular musical form. Composers were able to freely express their creativity in it. Schumann composed the Fantasy in C major in 1836. He dedicated the work to the famous composer Franz Liszt. Schumann originally planned to call the piece Ruins. The fantasy was inspired by Schumann's love for Clara Wieck. At the time, Schumann was not allowed to see Clara because her father was against it. The Fantasy in C major consists of 3 movements. Each movement has its own character. The first movement is very passionate and moving. The second movement is like a march. The third movement is calm and reflective. All movements together last about 30 minutes. The movements are connected by musical themes. The Fantasy in C major is a very emotional piece. Schumann uses many different timbres and moods. The music often alternates between loud and soft, fast and slow. There are virtuoso passages that are difficult to play. Schumann uses the entire keyboard, from low to high notes. The melodies are expressive and memorable. A special feature of the Fantasy is a quotation from a song by Beethoven. Schumann uses this quotation in the last movement. The Fantasy contains many romantic elements such as sudden emotional outbursts. Schumann experiments with harmony and uses unusual chords. The piece places high technical demands on the pianist. It is considered one of Schumann's most difficult works. The Fantasy in C major is one of Schumann's most important piano works. It shows his ability to create large musical forms. The work influenced many other composers. It is considered the high point of Romantic piano music. The Fantasy is often played in concerts and is part of the standard repertoire of famous pianists. The Fantasy in C major is performed by a solo pianist. The pianist must not only be technically very good, but also be able to express a great deal of feeling. The performance of the entire work takes about 30 minutes. Sometimes individual movements are also played. In concerts, the Fantasy is often played at the end of the program. It is an impressive final piece. In music lessons, you can learn a lot about Romantic music from the Fantasy in C major. Students can explore the different moods in the music. They can hear how Schumann uses and changes musical themes. The piece is a good way to explain what a fantasy is. The connection between music and feelings can also be shown well in this work.